There's something about the way people carry themselves, the way they speak, and the way they behave that tells you everything you need to know about who they are. You ever meet someone and within minutes you can tell whether you want to be around them or not? It's not magic, it's intuition. It's your life experience speaking to you, telling you to pay attention. And let me tell you, one of the most valuable lessons you can ever learn is that not everyone in your life deserves your trust. Some people are walking around with agendas, wearing masks, and pretending to be something they're not. Trust, once broken, can never truly be repaired. And if you don't choose wisely about who you give your trust to, it will cost you. Today, I want to talk about 3 types of people you should never trust. People who, no matter how charming, how convincing, or how sweet they may seem on the surface, will ultimately bring nothing but pain, betrayal, and disappointment. The first type of person you should never trust is the one who constantly seeks validation. These are the folks who thrive on compliments, who live for approval, but never seem to have any real substance underneath. Their whole existence is built around how they are perceived by others. They walk into a room and the first thing they do is look around to see who is watching, who is paying attention, who is noticing them. They might say all the right things, give you all the right nods, but at the end of the day, they are empty vessels. They want your attention, your approval, but they have nothing of value to offer in return. Their words are shallow. Their promises are empty. And when it's time for them to stand by you, they'll be nowhere to be found. They might tell you they've got your back, but when the going gets tough, their loyalty disappears faster than a shadow in the sun. Now, it's not that these people are inherently bad, it's just that they're so caught up in their own insecurities that they can't see beyond their own need for constant reassurance. The truth is, they don't have the emotional strength to offer you anything real. They're just trying to fill the void in themselves by getting you to give them something they can't give themselves. Their trustworthiness is conditional. It's tied to how much you can make them feel good about themselves. If you stop feeding that need, if you stop propping them up, then you'll see their true colors. They'll turn on you, start gossiping, or simply disappear because they were never truly invested in the relationship in the first place. They were invested in the idea of what you could do for them. But when that stops, so does the friendship, so does the loyalty, and so does the trust. The second type of person you should never trust is the manipulator. These are the individuals who are masters of deception. They don't just lie, they lie with purpose. Every word they say, every gesture they make has a hidden agenda. They are constantly trying to control the narrative, to steer the conversation in a way that serves them, and they're good at it. They'll make you think you're the one in control, that you're the one making all the decisions, but the truth is, they're pulling the strings behind the scenes. They play the victim when they need to, they play the hero when it's advantageous, and when the opportunity arises, they'll flip the script faster than you can blink. They'll make you feel guilty for things you didn't even do. And somehow, by the time the dust settles, you'll find yourself apologizing to them. These people are dangerous because they don't just take from you, they take your peace of mind, your clarity, and your sense of self. They make you question your instincts, doubt your own judgment, and second-guess your own decisions. They will never be straightforward with you because honesty doesn't serve them. They thrive in ambiguity and confusion because in that space they can manipulate the situation to their advantage. And they're so skilled at this that you won't even know it's happening until it's too late. You'll look back and realize you've been manipulated into doing things you never wanted to do, saying things you never meant to say, and giving things you didn't have to give. They come in many forms. Sometimes they're smooth talkers. Sometimes they're the charming friend who just wants to help, but always, they will make you feel like you owe them something. And when you don't give them what they want, that's when the manipulation turns ugly. They might become passive-aggressive, they might start playing the martyr, or they might even threaten to take their help elsewhere. But remember this, the manipulator doesn't care about you. They care about what you can do for them. And the moment you stop being useful, the moment you stop fulfilling their needs, they'll disappear, leaving you with nothing but a sense of betrayal and confusion. The third type of person you should never trust is the one who can't handle their own emotions. This is the person who is so consumed by their own inner turmoil that they can't think clearly or act rationally. They're the ones who overreact to the smallest things, who let their tempers get the best of them, and who drag you into their emotional mess. They can't see past their own pain, and as a result, they create chaos wherever they go. They're unpredictable, unstable, and the only thing that's certain about them is that you never know which version of them you're going to get. One minute, they're your best friend, telling you everything you want to hear, and the next minute, they're accusing you of things you didn't do or saying things that make no sense. This type of person is dangerous because their emotional instability makes them unreliable. You never know when they're going to blow up, when they're going to shut down, or when they're going to suddenly disappear from your life without a word of explanation. It's exhausting trying to keep up with someone whose emotions are like a roller coaster. You can't trust someone who can't even trust themselves. If they can't control their own emotions, how can you trust them to be there for you when you need them? How can you trust them to keep their word when they're at war with their own feelings? And the worst part is, they'll make you feel like you're the problem. When they lash out or do something irrational, they'll blame you. They'll tell you that you don't understand them, that you don't care about their feelings, when all you're really trying to do is keep the peace. They'll manipulate the situation to make you feel guilty, and if you're not careful, you'll start to believe it. But the truth is, they are the ones who can't control their emotions, and they'll drag you down with them if you let them. Their instability creates a toxic environment, and the longer you stay in it, the more you'll lose yourself. Trusting these three types of people, the validation seekers, the manipulators, and the emotionally unstable, will only lead to heartache. It's not a matter of if they will disappoint you, but when. People who are constantly seeking validation will never be satisfied with what you give them because they're looking for something deeper, something you can't provide. The manipulators will always be looking for a way to get one over on you. And the emotionally unstable will drag you down into their own chaos, leaving you struggling to hold it all together. Now, that doesn't mean you should shut everyone out. There are good people in this world, people who are trustworthy, who have your back, who will stand by you through thick and thin. But you have to learn to recognize the difference between those who deserve your trust and those who don't. You have to trust your instincts, trust your gut, and trust the track record of someone's actions. Words are easy. Anyone can say the right thing. But actions, that's what tells you who a person really is. You've got to protect your peace. You've got to protect your heart. Because when you give your trust to the wrong person, it takes a long time to recover from that betrayal. The scars might not always show, but they're there, underneath the surface, waiting for the next person to come along and try to get too close. And when that happens, you've got to be ready. You've got to know who's worth letting in and who's not. Because once you let the wrong person in, it's a hard thing to undo. Trust is one of the most valuable things you can give to someone, but it's also one of the most fragile. Don't waste it on those who don't deserve it. Recognize the signs, learn the lessons, and most importantly, guard your heart. Because once it's been broken, it's not just the person who betrays you who suffers. You suffer too. And that's something you can't afford to let happen. There's something subtle but dangerous about people who constantly seek validation from others. At first glance, they might appear harmless, even charming, but make no mistake, this need for external approval is one of the most powerful driving forces behind their behavior. And it can be a red flag that should not be ignored. We all seek validation to some degree. It's human nature to want to feel seen, heard, and valued. But when seeking validation becomes a constant, all-consuming drive, it transforms from something healthy into something toxic. The problem with the validation seeker isn't just their desire for praise or attention. It's how their need for validation shapes their actions, their relationships, and their ability to show up for others. They're not interested in genuine connection or mutual respect. They want to feed a fragile ego and construct an image of themselves that is contingent on how the world sees them. The validation seeker is like a vessel that is always empty, always needing to be filled by external sources. They constantly measure their worth based on how others perceive them, and if they don't receive enough positive feedback or affirmation, they feel unworthy, invisible, or rejected. This can lead them to behave in ways that are self-serving, manipulative, or even destructive, always trying to shape themselves into whatever they think will earn them the most praise. They'll craft a version of themselves that's palatable and pleasing to those around them, but it's not who they truly are. It's a performance, a facade designed to get attention. You'll see them at the center of social circles, always making sure that they're the one everyone is looking at. They're the first to jump in with a witty remark, the one who tells the best stories, the one who seems to be the life of the party. But beneath that confident exterior is an unspoken need, sometimes subconscious, sometimes not for everyone's eyes to be on them. When the focus shifts away from them, their mood shifts. They start to fidget, get restless, or suddenly become insecure, looking for ways to insert themselves back into the spotlight. They need to feel validated by others constantly. They crave admiration, approval, and praise like an addict craves their next fix. The problem is, when you constantly seek validation from others, it becomes a trap. The more you rely on other people to affirm your worth, the more you lose touch with who you are and what truly matters. You start living for the approval of others rather than living authentically and being content with yourself, with your own ACC, accomplishments, and your own self-worth. The biggest issue with the validation seeker is their inability to offer anything substantial in return. They may tell you what you want to hear, but there's often very little depth behind their words. Their conversations are designed to keep the focus on them, to keep you engaged with their needs. They'll tell you about their latest achievements, their latest struggle, their latest self-improvement journey. But when it's your turn to talk about yourself, you'll find that they're not really listening. They'll nod, smile, and maybe offer a brief comment, but their attention is already moving on to the next thing, the next person, the next opportunity for praise. They're not interested in hearing about your life or your struggles unless it somehow reflects positively on them. When you need their support or genuine interest in your life, they might not be there for you. Their presence in your life is conditional, based entirely on how much they feel validated by you. When they can't extract something for themselves, whether that's praise, attention, or admiration, they'll start to pull away. And this can happen at the most crucial moments, when you need a friend, when you need someone to listen, or when you need someone to stand by you. Instead of offering you a shoulder to lean on, they'll disappear into the crowd, or worse, shift the focus back to themselves, making it about their own struggles or achievements, as though they are the only ones who matter. This kind of behavior can be incredibly exhausting for those around them. You feel like you're always having to prop them up, always having to feed their need for validation. It's a draining cycle because no matter how much you give, it's never enough. They can never get enough affirmation to fill the void inside them. And when you stop giving, when you stop providing the praise or admiration they crave, you'll find yourself pushed to the side, often without explanation. You'll be left wondering where the relationship went wrong, why they've distanced themselves, or why they're suddenly so cold and distant. The truth is, they were never invested in the relationship in the first place. They were invested in getting their emotional needs met. And the moment that stopped happening, the moment you stopped feeding their ego, they were no longer interested in maintaining the connection. The most dangerous part about trusting a validation seeker is that they know how to mask their insecurity. They're often incredibly skilled at projecting confidence, charisma, and charm. They'll do whatever it takes to make you think they've got it all together. They know the right things to say, the right moves to make, and the right gestures to earn your admiration. But this is all part of the performance. They wear masks, they create personas, and they craft stories about their life that are designed to make you think they're successful, fulfilled, and emotionally secure. They're selling you an image, not their true self. And because their self-worth is so dependent on what others think of them, they're willing to bend, twist, or fabricate the truth in order to maintain the image they've worked so hard to create. This need for validation can show up in a variety of ways. One of the most common is when they constantly seek compliments about their appearance. They'll wear an outfit, do their hair, or post a picture on social media just to see who notices and who comments. If they don't get the response they were expecting, their mood may shift dramatically. They may act out, sulk, or retreat inwardly, feeling rejected. In relationships, this becomes even more apparent. They want to be constantly told how great they are, how attractive they are, how amazing they are, because without that validation, they don't know who they are. They can't hold on to their self-worth without it, and this is where the danger lies. In relationships, the validation seeker can become emotionally manipulative. They know how to make you feel guilty for not appreciating them enough. They may guilt trip you into giving them more praise or attention, making you feel as though you're responsible for their happiness. When you don't meet their needs, they can shift into a passive-aggressive mode or even turn the blame on you. They'll tell you that you don't care, that you don't see how hard they're trying, that you don't appreciate all they've done for you. And all of this is meant to make you feel like you owe them something: validation, attention, and affirmation. This dynamic can lead to a toxic cycle where the validation seeker constantly demands more and more, draining you emotionally and leaving you with a sense of frustration and resentment. You begin to feel like you're never enough, like no matter how much you give, it's never going to be sufficient. This is why it's so important to recognize the signs early and set boundaries. A relationship built on someone else's need for constant validation is not sustainable. You can't be responsible for filling someone else's emotional void. You can't be the one constantly providing the praise, the admiration, and the attention they crave just so that they can feel good about themselves. Over time, this pattern can erode your sense of self-worth too. You can become so focused on feeding the validation seeker's needs that you neglect your own. You may start questioning your own value, wondering why you don't get the same level of recognition or attention. You may start trying harder to meet their expectations, even at the cost of your own emotional well-being. This is a dangerous road to go down because eventually you'll lose sight of who you are. You'll forget what it feels like to be loved for who you truly are, not for the image you present or the performance you put on. And the validation seeker will never be able to give you that genuine love and appreciation in return, because they're too caught up in their own need for validation to truly care for you in a meaningful way. The most important thing to remember when it comes to validation seekers is that their insecurity is not your responsibility. You can be a supportive friend, a loving partner, a caring colleague, but you cannot fix someone else's broken self-esteem. They have to do that work themselves. They have to learn how to validate themselves, to find their own sense of worth from within, not from the applause or approval of others. Until they can do that, any relationship with them will always be one-sided, and ultimately you'll be left feeling emotionally drained and unappreciated. Be mindful of the people in your life who seem to need constant attention, constant praise, and constant validation. Recognize that while it's natural to want affirmation from time to time, it becomes problematic when someone relies solely on external approval to define their worth. These are the individuals who, when you stop offering them what they crave, will make you feel like you're the one in the wrong, like you failed them in some way. But the truth is, they never wanted your love or support for the right reasons. They only wanted what they could take from you to prop up their fragile sense of self. And when you stop feeding their need for validation, they'll find someone else to fill that role, leaving you behind. Don't be fooled by the charm or the facade. The validation seeker is not interested in a real connection. They're interested in being admired, seen, and worshipped. They will show you only the parts of themselves that make them look good, and they will shield the rest of themselves from you. And when you can no longer meet their needs, they will vanish or become cold, leaving you to pick up the emotional pieces. Trust yourself to recognize these patterns early. Don't give away your emotional energy to someone who can't even appreciate the value of it. The most important relationship you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. Make sure you protect it from those who seek to take but never give in return. Manipulators are some of the most dangerous people you can allow into your life. They don't just lie, they weave elaborate webs of deception, making you believe things that aren't true and twisting situations to serve their own hidden agenda. The manipulator is someone who operates in the shadows, rarely revealing their true motives, and constantly adjusts their behavior and words to get what they want from you. They are experts at disguising their self-interest as concern, kindness, or even love. Manipulation is subtle and insidious, making it difficult to recognize at first, but once you begin to see the patterns, it's impossible to ignore. These people don't want mutual respect or healthy relationships. They want control. They want to use you, and when you no longer serve their needs, they'll discard you without a second thought. What makes manipulators so dangerous is that they rarely show their true colors right away. They tend to be charming and disarmingly friendly at first, always making you feel like you're the most important person in the room. They know exactly what to say to win your trust, to make you feel special and needed. They'll flatter you, praise your strengths, and position themselves as someone you can depend on. At this stage, you might feel like you found a new friend, a new confidant, or even a romantic partner who genuinely cares for you. And why wouldn't you believe them? They're kind, attentive, seem to have your best interests at heart. But underneath this surface charm lies an agenda that's much darker. One of the key tactics manipulators use is playing on your emotions. They are skilled at making you feel guilty or responsible for their happiness. They might tell you that they've been struggling, that they've been hurt, or that they need your help in ways that make you feel like it's your moral obligation to help them. They'll appeal to your empathy, knowing exactly how to get under your skin. They may play the victim, portraying themselves as someone who's been wronged or mistreated, all the while making it seem like you're the only person who truly understands them. And because you want to help, because you want to be a good friend, a good partner, or a good person in general, you give, you listen, you support them. You try to solve their problems, even when it's clear that they're capable of solving them themselves. But the problem with manipulators is that no matter how much you give, it will never be enough. The more you help, the more they take and the more they demand. They know how to create a sense of urgency or crisis around their needs, and when you meet one need, they will quickly find another. It's a never-ending cycle of emotional drain. You begin to feel like you're walking on eggshells, trying to anticipate their needs, trying to satisfy their endless demands, all the while feeling like you're losing yourself in the process. Every gesture of kindness or support is seen as a weakness, something that can be exploited further. They are also masters of gaslighting. Gaslighting is a psychological tactic used to make you doubt your own perceptions, memories, or sense of reality. A manipulator will do this by denying things they said or did, making you question if you're overreacting or if you're misremembering events. If you try to confront them about their behavior, they'll deflect and turn the conversation back onto you, accusing you of being too sensitive or paranoid. They'll make you feel like you're the one in the wrong, even when you know deep down that something's not right. The goal here is simple: to make you question your own judgment and to weaken your sense of self. They might say things like, "I never said that," or "You're just imagining things," or "You're too emotional over time." These repeated denials erode your confidence in your own reality. You begin to second-guess your own feelings and experiences, which makes you more susceptible to further manipulation. You may find yourself apologizing for things you never did, simply because they've convinced you that you're the problem. The manipulator may even go so far as to accuse you of being too hard on them or not understanding their situation, thus shifting the blame entirely onto you. Manipulators also tend to play people against each other. They thrive in environments of confusion and division because it gives them more control. They may feed you information about other people, saying things like, "So-and-so doesn't like you," or "They were talking behind your back." This creates mistrust and division between you and those around you, making it more likely that you'll rely solely on the manipulator for emotional support. The goal here is to isolate you, to make you feel like the manipulator is the only one who truly understands you, the only one who is on your side in truth. The manipulator is simply trying to eliminate anyone who could challenge their control over you. They want to be the central figure in your life, the one you turn to for everything, and they'll do whatever it takes to ensure that happens. What makes manipulators particularly dangerous is their ability to disguise their behavior under a mask of kindness, concern, or love. They will often tell you that they care about you, that they want the best for you, and that they are always there for you. But these words are empty. They're meant to keep you in line, to make you feel like you owe them something, or to make you feel guilty when you don't comply with their requests. You may start to believe that they truly care about you, that their actions are a reflection of love or friendship, when in fact their care is conditional. They care about what you can do for them. They care about how you make them feel, about how much control they can exert over you, and about how you fit into their plans. If you stop being useful to them, or if you stop fulfilling their needs, their affection will quickly evaporate, and they'll turn on you. A manipulator's love is transactional. It's not based on mutual respect or genuine care, but on what they can extract from you. They might shower you with attention, gifts, or praise when they want something from you, but as soon as they get it, they'll withdraw. They know how to keep you hooked, how to create a sense of dependence on them. When you're emotionally invested in someone, it's hard to see through the veil of manipulation. But when you start to pay closer attention, you begin to realize that they're only interested in you when you're fulfilling their needs. The rest of the time, you're just a pawn in their game. Manipulators also tend to have an uncanny ability to read people. They observe you carefully, paying attention to your weaknesses, your vulnerabilities, and your desires. Once they understand what makes you tick, they'll use this knowledge to their advantage. If they know you have a deep fear of rejection, they'll manipulate your emotions to create situations where you feel like you might lose them. If they know you crave approval, they'll dangle praise and recognition in front of you like a carrot, only to withdraw it when you need it most. If they know you have a soft spot for them, they'll exploit that vulnerability to get what they want. And when you finally catch on, they'll either gaslight you into feeling guilty or blame you for the situation. The key to avoiding manipulation is learning to recognize these red flags and trusting your instincts. Manipulators are rarely as subtle as they think. While their actions may seem small at first, they build over time, creating a pattern that becomes more difficult to ignore. If you find yourself constantly feeling drained after spending time with someone, if you feel like you're giving more than you're getting, or if you start to question your own feelings and perceptions, it's time to take a step back and reevaluate the relationship. Trust yourself. Don't let someone else's manipulative behavior convince you that you're the problem. One of the most effective ways to protect yourself from manipulators is to set clear boundaries and stick to them. Manipulators thrive on weak or unclear boundaries because it allows them to push the limits and get more than they should. They will test your boundaries, inching forward little by little until they've worn you down. But if you're firm and consistent, they'll eventually lose interest and move on to someone who is easier to control. Be clear about what you will and won't tolerate, and don't apologize for having standards. Your boundaries are there to protect you from people who would take advantage of your kindness, your time, and your emotional energy. Another important step is to surround yourself with people who have your best interests at heart. Healthy relationships are based on mutual respect, not manipulation. Seek out people who encourage you to be your authentic self, who support your goals and dreams without expecting anything in return. These are the people who will lift you up, not drag you down. When you build a strong support network, it becomes much easier to recognize the manipulative behavior of others. You'll have a solid foundation of love and respect that won't be easily shaken by the manipulator's tactics. At the end of the day, the manipulator is someone who will take from you without ever giving back. They will always be looking for a way to extract more, to control more, and to make you feel like you're the one who owes them something. It's a toxic, exhausting cycle, and the only way to break free is to recognize it early and protect yourself. You are worthy of relationships based on honesty, respect, and love, not manipulation and control. Don't allow anyone to steal your peace of mind, your happiness, or your sense of self. Emotional instability is one of the most unpredictable and difficult traits to deal with in a person, especially when it manifests in a way that affects your own emotional well-being. The emotionally unstable person can appear perfectly fine one moment and then shift into a different emotional state without warning, creating chaos and confusion. Their behavior can range from extreme highs of euphoria to deep lows of anger or sadness, all seemingly at the drop of a hat. These shifts are not always tied to any external circumstance. Instead, they seem to come from within, making it difficult for anyone around them to predict how they will behave or respond. It can leave you feeling emotionally drained, walking on eggshells, never quite sure which version of the person you're going to encounter that day. At the core of emotional instability is a lack of emotional regulation, meaning the person has difficulty managing or controlling their emotions in a healthy way. Their emotions are often intense and overwhelming, and they may react impulsively or irrationally without thinking through the consequences. This lack of self-control can lead to erratic behavior, unpredictable outbursts, and actions that hurt both themselves and others. What makes these individuals particularly challenging to deal with is that their instability often manifests in ways that are manipulative or guilt-inducing. They might lash out at you when they're upset, even though you have done nothing wrong. They might disappear or shut down emotionally, making you feel rejected or abandoned, and when they finally reappear, they act as though nothing happened, leaving you in a state of confusion. In a relationship with someone who is emotionally unstable, it's common to experience cycles of emotional highs and lows, where you feel on top of the world one day and the next you're walking on pins and needles, trying to avoid triggering their anger or sadness. This constant emotional roller coaster is exhausting and can leave you feeling like you're constantly trying to patch up the relationship, never quite knowing if things are truly okay or just temporarily calm. When you try to address the instability or discuss their erratic behavior, they may react defensively, dismissing your concerns or accusing you of being the problem. You may find yourself in a position where you're forced to question your own sanity or blame yourself for their emotional outbursts. The emotionally unstable person is often very skilled at making you feel like you're responsible for their emotions. They may use guilt to control or manipulate you, making you feel as though you have to fix them, or that their emotional instability is your fault. For example, if they snap at you or act out of control, they may later say things like, "If you had just been more understanding, I wouldn't have lost my temper, or you make me feel like this, you know." They might even give you the silent treatment or emotionally withdraw from you, which can feel like a punishment for something that you had no part in. This emotional blackmail can be incredibly draining. They may demand your time, energy, and attention without considering your own needs or respecting your boundaries. Their instability may make them prone to guilt tripping or trying to manipulate your emotions into prioritizing them over everything else. In some cases, they may become angry or upset if you set boundaries, accusing you of being selfish or uncaring. But in reality, boundaries are crucial for maintaining your own emotional health and well-being, and without them, you risk losing yourself in the relationship. You may also find that an emotionally unstable person becomes easily overwhelmed by stress, and when they do, they may lash out in anger or retreat into themselves, making it difficult to have open and honest communication. They might withdraw from you, giving you the silent treatment, or acting cold and distant, and when they finally resurface, they expect everything to go back to normal without addressing the issues that led to the emotional breakdown. These cycles of emotional withdrawal and resurfacing create a confusing and unstable dynamic where it feels like you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop, never fully knowing whether the relationship is on solid ground or whether the next emotional storm is just around the corner. Being around someone who is emotionally unstable can also make you second-guess your own emotions and reactions. You might find yourself apologizing for things you didn't do, trying to calm them down even when you're the one who's been wronged, or trying to manage their emotions in a way that suppresses your own feelings. Over time, this can lead to emotional burnout, where you feel drained, frustrated, and unable to take care of yourself because you're too focused on managing someone else's emotions. The key to protecting yourself from the effects of an emotionally unstable person is recognizing when their behavior is no longer acceptable. You must understand that their emotional volatility is not your problem to solve, and you cannot allow it to dictate the terms of your life or happiness. It is important to set firm boundaries with emotionally unstable individuals, making it clear that their erratic behavior is not something you will tolerate. If the relationship becomes too toxic or damaging to your mental health, you may have to walk away for your own well-being. Ultimately, emotional stability is a core component of a healthy, functioning relationship. While everyone has emotional ups and downs, being in a relationship with someone who is emotionally unstable, someone who cannot regulate their emotions or treat you with the respect you deserve, is both damaging and unsustainable. Recognize the warning signs early and don't ignore the toll their instability takes on your own emotional and mental health. You deserve to be in a relationship where there is consistency, trust, and emotional balance, not one that leaves you questioning your own sense of self or constantly bracing for the next emotional explosion. Trust is a fundamental pillar of any meaningful relationship, whether it's between friends, Family members, colleagues, or romantic partners. It's the invisible bond that allows people to feel safe, supported, and valued in each other's presence. Trust is not something that can be demanded or coerced. It is something that must be earned over time through actions that demonstrate reliability, integrity, and consistency. While words can be powerful, they are empty without the consistent actions to back them up. Trust is built through the repeated, day in, day out demonstration of character and reliability, not just promises or sweet assurances. The unfortunate reality is that many people mistakenly believe that words alone are enough to establish trust. We've all encountered individuals who make grand declarations about their loyalty, love, or commitment. They tell us exactly what we want to hear, and for a moment, we might feel reassured. But the truth is that words are like empty vessels unless they are filled with genuine actions. Words can be easily manipulated to say whatever is most convenient in the moment, but actions reveal the true nature of a person's character. How many times have you heard someone say, "I love you," only to witness them act in ways that contradict those very words? Or a colleague assure you that they will help with a project, only for them to disappear when it's time to actually contribute? In these situations, the words are meaningless without the consistent behavior that proves their sincerity. True trust is cultivated in the small, everyday moments, through the things a person does when no one is watching, and through their actions in times of difficulty. Consistency in these moments demonstrates a person's integrity. It shows that their words are not just a fleeting attempt to gain approval or make a favorable impression, but rather a reflection of their true values. When a person's actions consistently align with their words, trust naturally develops. You begin to feel secure because you know that you can count on them, not because they said so, but because they have shown it time and time again. For example, imagine you are in a relationship and your partner promises to be there for you through thick and thin. They tell you how much they love you, how committed they are to the relationship, and how they will never let you down. Those words may sound wonderful, and in the beginning they may even provide some comfort. However, over time, the true test comes not in the promises they make, but in how they show up when times get tough. Are they there for you when you need them most? Do they follow through on their commitments, no matter how small or large? Do they show empathy and care during difficult moments, or do they disappear when things get hard? Trust isn't built on the grand gestures or the promises made during calm, easy times. It's built through the consistent, reliable actions taken during moments of stress, conflict, and adversity. Consider a different example. A colleague at work promises to help you meet a deadline. They assure you that they'll support you and that you can count on them. But when it's time to collaborate, they're nowhere to be found. They've gone silent or are absent when you need them. At first, you might give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they're busy, maybe they've got their own challenges. But when this behavior repeats itself, and when you are constantly left carrying the weight of their promises without receiving the help they pledged, the trust you initially had begins to erode. The inconsistency of their actions undermines the trust that their words once inspired. Over time, you stop relying on them, not because they said they wouldn't help, but because their actions consistently revealed that their words held no weight. In this case, trust is not earned by their assurances, but by their consistency and willingness to show up when needed. It's not just about being reliable when everything is going well. Consistency in times of difficulty is where trust is truly tested. When a person continues to act with integrity, even under pressure, that's when trust is solidified. Life is unpredictable, and challenges arise for everyone. How someone responds when things don't go as planned reveals their true character. Will they still act with honesty and reliability, or will they fold under pressure? Will they maintain their commitments, or will they make excuses, shift blame, or disappear? The person who consistently follows through, even when it's not convenient, is the person who earns real trust. Trust that is built only on the smooth sailing moments is fragile. It's only when a person's actions remain true through difficulty that trust is truly solidified. Another aspect to consider is that trust isn't just about consistency in actions, it's about consistency in character. People don't earn trust by being reliable one day and unreliable the next. Trust is built when a person's behavior aligns with their core values over time. For example, someone who values honesty will demonstrate that through their actions, even when the truth is difficult to face. They don't just tell you the truth when it's easy or convenient, they are truthful, even when it might hurt or cause discomfort. Consistency in character means that a person's behavior is dependable because it is rooted in their genuine values and principles, not just in the desire to please others or avoid conflict. Think about a situation in which someone promises to be honest with you but consistently lies or withholds the truth. No matter how many times they tell you they value honesty, their actions say otherwise. You might feel hurt and betrayed, and over time the trust you once had in them will erode. Their words become meaningless because they are not backed up by consistent, truthful behavior. Trust is built when people are not only consistent in their actions, but also in the core values that guide their decisions and interactions with others. When a person is true to their word, it's because their words reflect their authentic self, not because they're trying to manipulate or manage someone else's expectations. Moreover, people often fail to recognize that consistency and trust is not a one-time event or a temporary effort, it's a long-term commitment. It requires the willingness to show up for others, to fulfill promises, and to act with integrity over the course of months, years, or even a lifetime. In a world that is often filled with promises, flashy declarations, and superficial interactions, it's easy for words to become overused and underappreciated. But those who understand the true essence of trust know that it's built piece by piece through consistent action. It's not enough to make a promise or speak words of reassurance. What matters is that those promises are kept, and that those words are backed by behavior that reflects reliability, respect, and care. Building trust through consistency is not always easy. It requires patience, humility, and an understanding that relationships are not about instant gratification or grand gestures, but about small, consistent efforts that add up over time. It requires vulnerability, honesty, and the courage to show up for others, even when it's difficult or inconvenient. In relationships, whether personal or professional, we are not looking for perfection, we are looking for consistency. We want to know that the people around us will be there when they say they will, that they will follow through on commitments, and that they will act in ways that align with their values no matter what the circumstances. One of the greatest dangers of relying on words rather than actions is that it allows us to be deceived. Words are easy to manipulate, and people who are skilled at using language can often craft narratives that make them appear trustworthy, even when their behavior tells a different story. We've all encountered individuals who are excellent at saying the right things, telling us exactly what we want to hear, promising to be supportive, loyal, or honest, but when it comes time for them to act, they fall short. These people may be charming or persuasive, but their inability to follow through on their promises reveals their true nature. When we focus solely on words, we give these individuals an opportunity to manipulate us, allowing ourselves to believe in something that doesn't exist. Ultimately, trust is earned through actions that demonstrate reliability, integrity, and consistency. Words alone will never be enough to establish a foundation of trust. It is through the small, consistent efforts made over time, through the repeated demonstration of character, honesty, and dependability that trust is truly built. In relationships, whether personal, professional, or otherwise, we must learn to prioritize consistent actions over empty promises. Only then can we create the kind of deep, lasting trust that allows relationships to thrive, providing the safety and security that everyone seeks. Trust, when built on a foundation of consistency, becomes unshakable and enduring, able to withstand the test of time and adversity.